So, welcome back to yet another video on discrete mathematical structure. In today's video, we are going to talk about your basic counting principles that deals with your some basic elementary combinatories, that deals with permutations, combinations. We'll also talk about pigeonhole principle. So, in some sense, we will also try to look into the extended pigeonhole principles as well. So, to start with, let's do notice some incidents from our day-to-day life. So, we can have, a number of ways the set of objects can be arranged. Or maybe let's say counted initially. Arrangements, we will look into this particular topic in another few minutes. And we can have, number of ways. The same set of objects can be ignored, right? Previously we were counting, this time we are ignoring it. We can also have the number of ways in which the same set of objects can be selected. Right, we are going to focus on this particular part as well, and we can have also the number of ways the set of objects can be arranged. So these are some of the options which we have as far as counting is concerned, and this is like from our day-to-day life. Like for example, let's say, for example, if in our day-to-day life we observe that we go ahead with arranging books in shelf, and this can be at home or it can be kept in the library. We can also notice the same thing, like I can go ahead with arranging your record file. So I can look for arranging students record file, let's say by academic section, and then I can also look for arranging the seating, right? So seating arrangement during your examination, right now you're going for online examination, or else it's like we do take care of seat. Even in case of online examinations, you might have observed we divided into lecture halls and so on and so forth. Then we can have like arrangement of letters in a given word. So this can also be added. Now, so after looking all these things from our day-to-day life and these some examples, let's now talk about your combinatorics. Now this combinatorics is basically your study of arrangements. right? Study of arrangements of, let's say, objects and counting of objects with certain properties. So basically you can say that it is the study of how to combine, how to select, and how to partition elements of set or maybe sets in a certain way. A way can be, predefined. So we have like some basic counting principles, which are like, we have sum rule. So this is also called as principle of disjunctive counting. So let's say if one action can be performed independently in, let's say, n1 different ways, and another disjoint action, right? Do focus on disjoint, can be performed independently in your n2 different ways, and we can carry this thing, so and so on, where the number of actions being infinite, then your total number of ways in which either of these actions can be performed is n1 plus n2 plus n3 plus and so on and so forth, right? So up to n. So in this, basically we are presuming that only one action can be performed at a time. So what we can have is like, for example, if suppose I have to find that in how many ways I can get the sum of 8 with the help of two distinguishable, or maybe let's take two simple dice are rolled, right? So in that case, what we can have is like, I can have sum 8 with the help of 2, 6, right? On from one dice I got 2, another I got 8, then I can have 3 comma 5, I can have, let's say, 4 comma 4, then I can have like 5 comma 3 once again, I can have 6 comma 2 once again. So since like these dice are same, so these things, your 2 comma 6 and 6 comma 2, similarly 3 comma 5 and 5 comma 3 cannot be differentiated. So we say that okay, we can get this particular thing in your 3 different ways, right? So this is nothing but, you know, a way of counting. So this thing basically we have obtained from the 3 different ways, like from 2 comma 6, 3 comma 5 and 4 comma 4, and like 5 comma 3 and 6 comma 2 are same things because these two dices are similar. Now let's now talk about your product rule. So this product rule is also called as principle of sequential counting. So just a minor difference from your sum rule. So in this case what I have is like if suppose one action can be performed independently in, let's say, n1 ways or n1 different ways to be very specific, and after it has been done, if second action can be performed in, let's say, n2 different ways and so on, and obviously the number being finite, then the total number of ways in which all the actions can be performed together is, by this time you might have got the idea, right? Obviously n1 into n2 into n3 into so on and so forth. So in this way we assume that each way of performing the first action may be followed by any way of performing the second action and so on. So one thing to note here is that your sum rule is in contrast to the product rule, where we consider the sequence of actions occurring together and thereby the number of ways get multiplied, as simple as that. As simple as that. the product rule cannot be used. Right, so what I'm trying to say is that when two tasks can be done at the same time, the sum rule or the product rule cannot be used. Now, if suppose if we add, now this is something which is crucial, right? If we add the number of ways to do each task, then the ways to do both the tasks are counted twice. So, in order to find the number of ways to do one task, we add the number of ways in which each task can be done, and then we subtract the number of ways in which both the tasks can be done. Right, so what we are doing is we are adding the number of ways to do each task, because if suppose we alone do, it becomes twice the actual number. So what we are doing is we are adding the number of ways to do each task, and then we do subtract the number of ways in both the tasks can be done. Let's say I have like two tasks, right? So let's add both the things and then subtract it. So this method of counting is called principle of inclusion and exclusion. Right, so what we are trying to do is that we are adding and excluding. That's why we are giving this thing a name as inclusion and exclusion. Now let's take this discussion a little further, and in terms of sets, let's try to understand this inclusion and exclusion principle. So let A and B be finite sets, because we are dealing with finite sets only in this entire discussions, and let T1 be the task of choosing an element from A. Similarly, T2 be the task of choosing an element from B. So what we have is like we have mod of A or n of A, number of A ways to do T1. Similarly, we have mod of B or n of B ways to do T2. See, I don't need to throw some light on mod of A and mod of B. Recall our discussions from the set theory. From there we have extracted this. Right, there we were dealing with mod of A or n of A, mod of B or n of B. Right, so number of elements simply we are talking about. So obviously your mod of A union B ways will be to do T1 or T2. Similarly, mod of A intersection B ways will be to do T1 and T2. Then what we can have is we'll be having your mod of A union B equals mod A plus mod B minus mod of A intersection B, and this is your inclusion exclusion principle. We can express the same thing with the help of a Venn diagram, right? So we have, let's say, a universal set or the universe of discourse. I have a set A here, I have a set B here, right? So these are like A and B. So this area turns out to be A intersection B. This area turns out to be A minus B. This area turns out to be B minus A. Now, in case of, let's say, I have like for 3 sets, what we can have is the same thing we can write like A union B union C will be mod of A plus mod of B plus mod of C minus mod of A intersection B minus mod of B intersection C minus mod of C intersection A plus A intersection B intersection C. So this is the one for your 3 sets. So this was all about your inclusion and exclusion principle. Now let's talk about permutations, right? A very familiar topic. So we will quickly finish this discussion as well. So your permutation is also called as your arrangement of objects, right? And what it means is that your any arrangement, let's say, so any arrangement of members of a set into a sequence or order is your permutation. And let's say I have the arrangement of, let's say, R from n objects, right? So I need to arrange R objects from n objects in a given order is called an R permutation of n, and this is basically denoted by P of n comma R, your very familiar term, or NPR, right? So these things are like very familiar to you. So what we get is like NPR equals n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 up to n minus R plus 1. Now the same thing we can write it as your NPR equals n factorial upon n minus R factorial. So basically each of the distinct order of arrangement of a given set of distinct objects where taking some or all of them at a time is called your permutation of the object. So what we have is we have like permutation with repetition. So in this case, let's say if there are same n objects with n1 of your first type, n2 of second type, and let's say nr of rth type, where your n1 plus n2 plus up to nr is equals to n, then we say that there are n factorial upon n1 factorial into n2 factorial up to nr factorial arrangements of the given n objects. Right, so there we see that okay, there are some repetitions, and then we apply it in this particular way. So now let's talk about another topic, which is your circular permutation. So in this case, your arrangements in closed loop loops are your circular permutations. So let's say, suppose I have like n persons, right, a1, a2 up to an, and these n persons are to be arranged around a ring. Let's say we are playing a game where I have to arrange these a1 up to an people, which are n in numbers, in a ring. So there are like n factorial ways in which they can be arranged in a row, and on the other hand we have like all the linear arrangements that would be, let's continue to the next slide, will be in a form of, let's say I have the first arrangement is like starting with a1, then A2, then A3 up to AN. Second one can be your A2, A3, A4 up to AN minus 1 and A1, right? Second, somewhere I'll find that okay, I have reached to, let's say, some AN, right? Or maybe, and my A1 comes to this, A2 comes to this, up to your AN minus 1, right? So it's like rotating, right? These many things are possible. So this particular setup will lead to the same arrangement in a ring, right? So each arrangement which is circular will correspond to your n linear arrangements which we have shown. So the total number of circular arrangement for n persons will be your, let me write it, total number of circular arrangement of n persons will be equal to like n factorial upon n, so it can be like n minus 1 factorial, right? So whenever you see circular factorial is straight, circular permutation straightforward, we have this particular thing. Now let's talk about combinations, right? Or maybe before combinations, let's talk about pigeonhole principle initially. Now, a very interesting topic, in fact, a peculiar name, but from the definition and the explanation, you will get a clear-cut idea that what basically this pigeonhole principle is. So basically, in simpler terms, your pigeonhole principle says that, let's suppose I have like n plus 1 object and I have to put it into n boxes, right? So what I'm trying to say is that I have like n boxes and I have n plus 1 boxes, right? So what it says is, in simpler term, right, at least I'll have a box that will contain 2 objects. The rest everything will have 1 object. That's what in simpler terms. So I'll go into detail about it. Right. Let's say I have like 12 seats and I have like 13 people. Right. So what, with the help of a pigeonhole principle, what I get is that at least 2 people share a common seat, right? That's what your pigeonhole principle is. Like, this is the simplest possible explanation which I could give. Now let's go into the technical details of it, right? So what it says is that first of all, it's also known as your Dirichlet drawer principle. Dirichlet drawer principle. And in some of the literatures, you will also find it as your shoebox principle. Right. So all these terms are same. So this principle states that if there are more pigeons than pigeonhole, then there must be at least at least I'm talking about one pigeonhole having at least 2 pigeons in it. Right, so suppose let's say I have flock of 20 pigeons and these 20 pigeons are flying into a set of 19 pigeonholes. But since like there are 20 pigeons and 19 pigeonholes, so at least one of these 19 pigeonholes must have at least 2 pigeons in it. Right, to see like why it is true, that you should note that each pigeonhole has at most 1 pigeon in it. So 19 holes occupied, 1 per hole, easily done. And now we are left with 1 extra pigeon, so there it has to be accommodated in the existing 19 ones. So at least one will have more than 1 pigeon or 2 pigeon. So let me explain you further. I have, let's say, I have like n items, and these n items are to be put in m containers, right? In your day-to-day life you are feeling this, and the setup is like n is greater than m, right? So that means the items are always greater than your containers, right? So that is a regular thing which we observe in, let's say, in our daily kitchen. So where items are more and the containers are lesser in number. So what will happen is that at least, right, your one container must contain more than 1 item, right? So it's a regular practice in our kitchen also. Sometimes what we do is we keep multiple things in packets of multiple things in a single box, just because there is a mismatch between the items and the number of containers, right? So this was about pigeonhole principle. Now let's talk about the generalized pigeonhole principle. And what it says is that, let's suppose if I have like n pigeons, and these n pigeons are assigned to, let's say, m pigeonholes. In that case, one of the pigeonhole must contain at least floor of n minus 1 upon m plus 1 pigeons. Now this is something which is a generalized pigeonhole principle. Somewhere in you will also find there are like some handshaking problems, hair counting problems, socks picking problem, birthday problem. These things are relied on the principle of your pigeonhole. Now this was all about the generalized pigeonhole principle. Now let's talk about combinations, right? We had a discussion on permutations, but we missed, or we deliberately switched to this particular topic, which is your pigeonhole principle, and now we are switching towards your combinations. What it says is that this is something which is the selection of items. Right, this is also called as your selection of items. So what it says is that the number of combinations of, let's say, n objects taken r at a time is your C and R. It's given by your NCR equals to n factorial upon r factorial into n minus r factorial. Right, remember we had like NPR was r factorial NCR factorial. Right, sorry, NPR is r factorial into NCR. What is NCR? Which is your n factorial upon r factorial into n minus r factorial. Right, so these two things are, in some sense interrelated, permutation and combination. Now there is another extension to it. Which is your restricted combinations, but before that let's understand basically what is your combination. Right, from the formula itself you might have got an idea that okay, we are looking for the number of combinations of n objects and we are taking r at a time, which is your C and R. So basically we are trying to determine the possible arrangements in a collection of items where the order of selection does not matter. Right, in combinations you can select the items in any order, but now let's talk about the restricted combination, where one situation is that the total number of combinations of n different objects taken r at a time in which m particular objects are always excluded. Right, there will be a situation that let's not include this particular portion. So in that case what we get is we get n minus m CR. Right, in another option where the total number of combinations of n different objects taken r at a time in which m particular objects are always included. Right, that means there will be separate things which are always included. In that case we'll have n minus m C R minus n. Right, so in one case we are going for n minus m CR, in other case we are going n minus m CR minus m. Now in addition to this we have like some useful results related to combinations, and these results are one is your NC0 is equals to NCN is equals to 1. Alright, this thing might be, you know, crystal clear. Another thing can be your n minus 1. Obviously it will be based on the previous formula, it would be n, it will be left with n only, right? Another thing can be your nc1, which will be equals to n only, right now once again we are talking about combinations, and let's add some more items to it. We can have your NCR will be n upon r into n minus 1 CR minus 1. Simple one. Once again, I don't think that I need to give some explanation to this particular thing. On top of it, we also have your NCR plus NCR minus 1, which is equals to n plus 1 CR. Now further we can have let's say NCR upon NCR minus 1 will be equals to n minus R plus 1 upon R. Now these things are something which are very simple ones as far as your results are concerned, because these things are like, you know, directly putting into the formula and getting this particular thing. Now, okay, in this particular thing I forgot to mention that your NCR plus NCR minus 1 equals to n plus 1 CR is also called as your Pascal's rule, right? So you have to keep in mind that this thing is also called as your Pascal's rule. Now let's take one example on combinations so the picture might be clear. In fact, I know that you have already covered this particular topic, so this is something which might be a cakewalk for you. So what we have is, we have like we have like 5 cards with, let's say, 2 clubs and 3 hearts. Right. So, and in total we know that we have like 52 cards. So the question is, how many 5 card hands with 2 clubs and 3 hearts can be dealt from 52 cards? Right. So for this, what we have is, we have like, we know that there are like 13 clubs and there are similarly 13 hearts in a deck of 52 cards. So each 5 card hand is a combination of, right, 13 clubs and, right, 5 card has like 2 combination of 13 clubs, because we have to have 2 clubs. Similarly, I need to have 3 combinations of 13 hearts, right, because 3 hearts we need. So what we get is obviously 13 NCR C2 into 13 C3. This can be further solved into, let's say, 13 factorial upon 2 factorial into 11 factorial into 13 factorial upon 3 factorial into 10 factorial. This turns out to be, 13 into 6 into 13 into 2 into 11, that comes out to be 22308. So now, so this is the entire solution. Now we can have some more problems on it that we'll take in the tutorial class, but as of now, for today, we had a discussion on your basic counting principle, where we looked into some basic day-to-day life examples, and then we talked about your basic combinatorics, where we said that it is nothing but the study of arrangements and the counting. And then we talked about sum rule, and we saw some example. Then we talked about your product rule, where we said that okay, this is something which is also called as your principle of sequential counting. We saw some examples on it. We talked about your inclusion exclusion principle, and we talked about inclusion and exclusion for 2 sets and 3 sets. Then we talked about permutations. We talked about your permutations with repetitions. We talked about circular permutation. Then we talked about pigeonhole principle. We also looked into your extended pigeonhole principle, and then we talked about your combinations. We talked about circular combinations. We talked about restricted combinations, and we saw some useful results. So this was all from my side. See you